Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. And our top story today, movie theaters make a comeback. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Colette Bennett is with The Street. Colette, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me on again.
So normally we talk about gaming and aspects of gaming. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about the comeback of the movie theater. And look, movie theaters like AMC and others really took a big hit during the pandemic. But it seems like with some of these recent releases, Marvel being the most recent, they've made a considerable comeback.
For sure. I think that right now, and just to give some background to the folks watching that might not know, AMC's CEO talked about a big victory that they had over the release of the new comic book movie Ant-Man. Basically what they did, which I think was a really clever move from a marketing perspective, is they made a popcorn bucket out of the main character's like helmet, and when you opened it, all the popcorn was inside. It was $29.99, and it was really fun. It's like the kind of thing that you don't see at the movies often these days. And he said that they made an enormous amount of money. I think he said $600,000 in one day from sales of this fun thing. And I think that this kind of merch tie-in really appeals to a lot of folks, especially folks in the comic book and gaming communities, because we are kind of known for loving fun merch. Like it's just kind of a thing in these fandoms. And so I think it obviously appealed to a lot of folks like me. It appealed to a lot of kids and families, of course, who were like, oh my God, cool. But the CEO said, we'll be seeing more tie-ins like that in the future. And I mean, yeah, no kidding, because you could rake in that much extra money, from something, I don't want to say simple, but I mean, like that's something that I think a lot of folks that enjoy collectibles would probably really, really enjoy to see more of, me included. And I feel like that would actually get me in the theater versus sitting on my couch and watching another, Netflix movie, which is very convenient. But I'm a person who's always loved to go to the movies, but I know that's not the case for everybody. A lot of people would just prefer to watch at home,
Well, I think you make a good case, but we're social creatures by naturally social creatures. And it seems like, I think we learned a lot during the pandemic where the streaming platform, which has arguably taken off, and that's a whole nother conversation, really put the theaters kind of in the corner, and they had a lot. Some of them even had to declare bankruptcy. But
Sure.
could this collectible, and I don't want to put it in the same vein as like an NFT, but could this collectible genre apply to any type of movie? For example, I know we have Indy 5 coming out, but forgetting the adventure series, could the remake of Gone with the Wind, could there be a collectible where you get Scarlett O'Hara's head or something and it's popcorn?
That's funny. I mean, yeah, I think it's possible. I think it depends on the folks that are going to the movies and the movie and the kind of people. But I do think that that's one possible advantage that movies could do for fun, because I do think that theaters like AMC are definitely seeing, the folks that were like, well, we got tired of watching movies at home for 2 years. We want to go to the theater. And so while the theaters aren't necessarily packed, I think that things like this are something that streaming, it can offer. And it's a family experience in this case too. So, if you went to the theater to see Ant-Man with your kids and they were so excited because they got to take something home, I think that brings it kind of reminds people of the magic of the movies. And I mean, I know that sounds a bit odd, but I still think the movies are magic. And I think it's just a little something that reminds people that it is worth getting up and getting in the car and going to the theater. So I think it's very smart. I'm very interested to see what AMC, will do with things like this, with tie-ins from here on out. I think it could be really lucrative for their business.
One more question I wanted to ask you. Another area that and I heard an actress, I can't remember it. Look, I don't know who all the actresses are today, but someone panned that you could buy tickets for like the middle of the theater. And so when I was a kid, my mom used to take us to see the original Indiana Jones, which back then was called Raiders of the Lost Ark. You just got there early, you grabbed your Raisinets and popcorn and you sat down. Now you've got reservations, and this actress, who I think was more mature, panned that. Is it these types of things like, okay, you get a middle seat in the middle of the aisle? Is that what these theaters are going to have to do to make money?
It's a really good question, and I don't know the answer yet. I think honestly that that's not a great move for them, because I think that, the movies, like I said, have gotten some advantages with, people really wanting to get out of the house and come back to theaters and have outdoor, social experiences. But on the other hand, it's like, you could spend, I don't know, whatever, like even for just yourself, you could spend, $30 or $40 to get your ticket, go to the theater, spend the gas, buy your ridiculously overpriced popcorn and sit down. So it's like, I still feel from the financial point of view, and in a time where like, people are more worried about finances, they don't have the advantage. So to be like, hey, you have to do all that, and then also you have to pay a fee to sit somewhere that you've sat free for 20, 30, 40 years, depending on how long you've been alive. I think that's probably a really bad move on their part. I mean, it kind of waits to be seen. I do think that one thing that is a possibility for theaters is to do kind of like a VIP program, which some folks have done. But what it means is that by paying like a small monthly subscription fee or whatnot, you always are like, you have reserved seating in like the plushest seats in the theater. Like you basically get a VIP experience. I think a lot of people enjoy the kind of, it makes them feel special. So that's a possibility. But, making me pay twice as much or, a quarter as much or whatnot to sit in the seats that I've always sat in, I don't think that's a great business move personally.
Yeah, I think that's a tough move. It used to be, Colette, when I was a kid, that a 3D movie is great. And they used to hand you the 3D glasses. And
Yep.
of course, I'm referring to shows like Jaws 3 in 3D, which is absolutely horrible. Dennis Quaid, Bess Armstrong, what's his name? Gossett Jr. From Officer and Gentleman. But in any event, I don't think that was good either. In any event, we come back. We're going to talk. I need to take a quick break, of course. When we come back, we're going to talk about the shift for social media platforms to paid subscriberships. Really interesting. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and called Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Colette Bennett of The Street. Well, Colette, thanks so much for staying with us this morning. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2.
Happy to be here as always.
Yeah, and just to correct myself, I couldn't remember the actor's name. It was Louis Gossett Jr. I love Louis Gossett Jr. I just don't think Jaws 3 in 3D was his best work. All right, let's shift gears. And I think this one's interesting. Again, we're not talking about gaming, but social platforms. We just heard, well, we know that when Elon Musk took over Twitter, he was revisiting, I think, the blue check mark and charging subscribers that. Now we have word from Meta. I keep on wanting to call them Feta, by the way, like the cheese, but it's really, yeah, Feta.
It's a mashup of Facebook and Meta in your brain.
Yeah, that's true. So Meta is now going to charge. And I wonder, is ad revenue drying up to the point where these platforms now are going to say, okay, you want premium services, you're going to have to pay $7.99 and $8.99 or $14.99. Is that the model?
Well, it's a complex question. I mean, the news has prolifically reported that, Elon Musk's behavior since buying Twitter in October of last year has been, erratic, to put it really nicely. A lot of advertisers have probably fled the platform. The last stat I saw was, 50%. So my guess is, they definitely need to make up gains. But then to move over to Meta and this model, I do think that they're kind of copying from Musk in that way. But I think also, Meta has big concerns. And this is something we've talked about here before. They are literally hemorrhaging money in the virtual reality division. The metaverse stuff is something that Mark Zuckerberg has just been so outspoken about that, I feel like it would really, he's trying to save face, I think, by keeping it going. And I do think that what they have going in terms of VR is probably the most success anyone has had with commercial adoption of a product like that. But I just think that he went all in, and it's kind of, I mean, their financial reports, I think tell the story. So I think, they're having to think about other ways to potentially make money. And for, something that was for many, many years, just like, a little symbol of pride, like, oh, your account's very popular. Oh, you're, an official member of the media or whatever, you would have these check marks. And now they're going, wait, we can make people pay for these. So, I personally don't love it, but I'll be honest, just from my point of view, I've been verified, quote unquote, on those platforms for a long time. And if my checks go away, I'm not paying for them. I don't care enough about that kind of internet status. Some people might, but I don't. Also, you can like hover over tweets, and like if someone has paid for the status, you can tell. So it's like, they're basically just trying to shake it up and figure out a way to squeeze money out of it. I don't know if it's going to be successful or not, but I guess, hey, they have to give it a try at this point to see other ways to, make up for losses.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think there's a lot of, I don't know, I want to say distrust, but I think that if someone can just go out and buy this blue check mark or whatever Meta is offering,
it's valueless.
Anybody, I was like, I'm certainly not, I consider myself, by the way, the anti-influencer. So I'm not an influencer by any stretch of the imagination. But if anyone can buy that, can you, and you look at the smackdown that I think a basketball player just had for promoting cryptocurrency. I think the SEC fined that person $1.4 million for promoting Paul Prince. Is that his name?
Maybe I saw it briefly this morning, but I didn't stop.
But my point is, what does that mean for the consumer of the information? And does that just undercut what social media was, which was, hey, I'm just going to share what my, in 140 characters or 240 characters, what I think, and that's it. So I think it really undercuts, my personal opinion, not being an expert like you, it personally undercuts their objective.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it does too, but I think they're probably leaning into, we've seen so much of the subscription model. Really, I mean, I think, Netflix was such a key driver in, making that, not just for streaming, for many things, but I feel like, Netflix was such a key driver of that culture. And now we're seeing that everywhere. And I'm, opening my phone and, seeing an app, and then, you log into the app, you get the app, you log into it, and they're like, this will be $29.99 a month. And you're like, what? But the funny thing about it is that I think a lot of places are realizing they have things that they should have monetized from the beginning. If the check marks had been monetized 10 years ago, I don't think people would really question it. I think it would make more sense, but because it's been the same way for so long, I think it's kind of the same thing you hit when you go to websites and, they're subscription gated now, where you have to pay a certain amount of money to read the New York Times, or it probably always should have been that way, but, people weren't thinking about that when the digital economy was building up. So,
yeah, well, I mean, and it's always hard it's always, hindsight's always 2020, and it's really, really hard to go back. But I wonder what this means for social media, the news media that you just brought up, like the New York Times, or even the Smyrna, Georgia Daily Record, whatever it's called. Local journalists are the ones I think the most about, but also streaming services. I mean, we've seen Netflix and others come up with ad-supported subscriptions, so you're not paying as much. And I got to tell you, if I know that there's an ad, as long as there's one or two ads, that's fine. If there's like 5 in succession, I'm getting up to grab some popcorn or some Raisinets.
Well, I think, and this is just one person's opinion, but I think that they are hoping that folks that are like, I can't afford Netflix, I can't afford fill in the blank streaming service, or, Hulu, whatever, they want to offer an option to get that consumer, into their subscriptions. And while you or I are like, hell no, I'm not doing that, I've been watching without ads forever, a lot of folks who, to be frank, can't afford that privilege, they might tap into that. I've heard some buzz that Netflix has actually seen a good response with the ad-supported tier. We won't really know until they do their next earnings call. But like for now, I think, it's possible that it could be a good option. I think it's good that it's not the only option. I think that's where things would get dicey, when it's either you watch with ads or, basically, I think a lot of things that are we can expect a lot more things to be monetized that haven't been monetized in the past, when it comes to things like, perks, things we get for free, or, I think that'll be a really interesting space to watch in the next few years.
Yeah, well, as we know, there is no free lunch, and this content that's being created, whether it's on Netflix, whether it's being distributed through social, the stuff that we do here at BRN, there's a cost. People don't work for free. And there's a cost associated with it. So if you want good, entertaining content, good information, in some cases, you're going to have to pay for it. I just don't know if it's sustainable to have all these different social media platforms. I personally would not pay 1 cent to access any of those platforms. I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. But hey, maybe LinkedIn, because I think LinkedIn is a little bit more of a serious platform. But I guess we're going to have to see how this all falls out. Colette, always a pleasure chatting with you. Great to see you as always. And thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Awesome.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, we'll visit our website, and of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.